You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers. First things first, if you noticed some really weird stuff as far as title that doesn't make any sense, no description, ads in random places, the hosting thing was acting super weird for me yesterday. And it just wasn't working, just flat out. So I pushed it out as best as I could just to make sure that there was a thing. And then this morning I went back and checked it. It was actually worse than I thought. I thought pretty much everything was fine except the ads being a little bit messed up. But no, it turns out it didn't save what I put in there, and it saved... Those titles were actually the name of the songs, I guess, or I think the outro songs. So it saved that as a file and then just put that as the title or whatever. So like I Know Karate or whatever. Super freaking random. Yeah. So I know it's like with me missing shows and forgetting to post shows and now random things. It's like it seems like I'm going crazy. I promise I'm not going super crazy. It was just a glitch. I'm hanging in there, barely, but I'm hanging in there. All right, Beer Cheese Benny, what you got?
Ryan, Beer Cheese Benny.
What's up?
Yeah, so yesterday I was calling in, telling you about how I was like, bitching and moaning about, Gutekunst not doing anything, and then, you got the guard, which, I mean, again, people are so stupid, man. People just see the number, like, how much we're paying them. They're like, oh, overpay. And then come to find out, like, basically none of that's guaranteed, right? And then, Gutekunst went and got Nate Hobbs, which, honestly, dude, I love it. I know he's a flat corner, but, I imagine if you put Nixon to the outside, that's going to work out very well. And Hobbs, I was looking at his, I don't even know if I called in about this, but it doesn't matter. I was seeing something this morning, actually, about how he actually grades out pretty well. 81.6 run defense grade, 6th among corners, and then 81 defensive stops, which is 7th. And, I was watching highlights of him, and I'm like, man, he kind of reminds me of Jair, where he can kind of recognize, like, the screens and stuff, and, like, he gets there, and he's a great tackler, I think it's something that we really need. Like, the Packers always struggle with tackling and stuff. We could really use that, man. And I'm just glad I'm not the GM, right? I think Gutekunst is doing a great job. And, his contract, too, it's like...
It's a bad year to be a GM. That's all I'll say. I'm guessing a lot of fan bases are underwhelmed with the things that have happened. Some fan bases are delirious, like Bears fans and probably Vikings fans and everything else, because they signed a bunch of people, and a lot of them have big names, that used to have good careers, so people think they're still good at football, like Grady Jarrett or any number of other. The Vikings did what they do every year. They signed like 7 defensive tackles that are 300 years old and everything. So I'm sure there's at least some contentment there with a lot of other fan bases, despite the fact that they shouldn't be. But there's going to be a lot of unhappy fan bases out there this free agent period.
I think it's only, what is it, $16 million a year, but only $12 million guaranteed. So, but I still think there's more coming, man. We got to let Goody cook, man. There's still more coming. I think Trey Hendrickson's coming, bro. But, Good's ability to get guys that nobody's really talking about that can, be impact players, I think, or, I don't know if you want to call it impact or just, players that improve the team in a way. But, we'll see what happens today, man. I'm gonna be checking X periodically today. Hopefully, we get some good news. Maybe we'll get a receiver too. Who knows? But yeah, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, like I've been saying, there's not much left to do. Yeah, I mean, they there's plenty of people. The Packers could certainly do something, but I don't know what people like and people don't. I got an argument with somebody yesterday, and then they had mentioned Asante Samuel as like somebody that would have been a good signing. It's just just random stuff where it's like whatever floats your boat, I guess. I mean, if that's what you're into, then I guess we could do that, and some people would be happy. I don't know. For my money, there's clearly nothing left worth going after out there, pending some kind of a trade. The Trey Hendrickson thing is still going around. Word out to the point of, I guess, the prices are way too high, and teams are interested, but they're not willing to meet the price. So it's kind of reminiscent of the DK Metcalf situation where, they were asking for like a first plus a player or something like that, and everybody's like, that's ridiculous. And then it was reported, I think it came down to a second, and then a deal got done fairly quickly after that. We'll see. I am still of the opinion, and again, I know it's different because the Bengals are in a tough spot financially, having paid a bunch of people. And then on top of that, Trey Hendrickson reportedly asked for a trade, so it's pushing a little bit toward something may get done, but I don't know. It's just a gut feeling that he's going to end up staying with the Bengals. And even if he doesn't, I just imagine how many teams are fighting for him. And believe me, I am of the opinion that Gutekunst should go above and beyond. There's no limit. There's absolutely a limit. And like I said yesterday, this morning, whatever. There's a part of me that says that it just might not even be worth it based on where we're at right now. But look, he's a phenomenal player, and he would make us significantly better right now. For how long he can do that, I don't know, but. I think whatever his value is, you're probably willing to take it a little further than that. You know what would actually be funny is if we should do this. We should do it like in the Facebook group. This would actually be a really funny exercise. We should get like 32 people, and they're all Packer fans, and all of them are GMs, and they all have the same compensation. They all have the same salary cap space. That that would be such a fun thing to do. We got to do that. It doesn't even need to be 32. I want to do this, actually. This is what we're going to do. Reach out to me if you want to do it, and I will try to put it out there on social medias. Here's what I want to do. I am Trey Hendrickson. You have the Packers compensation. Trade for me. Trade for me. You want me? Get me. I'm Trey Hendrickson. I'm the greatest pass rusher in the world. Heck, I'm Myles Garrett. I just want to see what happens, because you know what's going to happen? Because we have a lot of people that right now would say, do whatever it takes, right? I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. One person is going to offer the dumbest, most ridiculous thing in the history of the world, and I'm going to go there, and everybody else just failed and is a failure of a GM. So your job is to not be a garbage GM. If I could do this better, it would be to get all the like anti-Goot people just to make fun of them. But at the end of the day, it would be a fun exercise, and I would just be curious to see what everybody offers. But I mean, we can even do back and forth. Make an offer. I will bring in the offers. I'll probably even do like a mass thing. Maybe we'll do email or something so I can shoot out, emails to everybody that, the going rate is this. I can't go for any less or whatever. If you're willing to go up, I don't know. But it'd be a fun exercise to see what happens. You want to be a GM? Be a GM. Go get Trey Hendrickson. Better not fail. Better not suck. Better not be a terrible GM. And even if you were to say it's not really fair because some people are unrealistic and stupid, right? But that's just the same thing on a larger scale. There are some teams that are overly stupid, and the Packers are not an overly stupid team. So what are you going to do about that? That's kind of the point. Anyways, TJ.
Hey, Ryan, TJ from Alabama.
What's up?
Basking in our second day of legal tampering before the free agency period actually starts. And overall, I think it's fine. I mean, at this moment, it's just Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs. But we upgraded the offensive line. not massively, but, we've upgraded the offensive line. That sounds good. Nate Hobbs is a fine signing with versatility, both to play the slot and the outside. I think he mixes really well with the team. And based on the contract, looks kind of like Josh Jacobs' contract, where it's a 1 to 2 year deal, and then we'll see after that. Haven't seen Aaron Banks' contract yet, but my guess is it's structured pretty darn close to that. And I 100% agree with you. The concept of why didn't we get a splash player or this, that, and the other is because it wasn't available. It's like coming home from a vegan restaurant and somebody asking, why didn't you get the Wagyu beef? Well, because the Wagyu beef wasn't on the menu. So, and we got, obviously there's plenty of time left in the draft and yada, yada, yada. Who knows? Maybe there's a massive trade out there. Kind of doesn't smell like it. Kind of smells like Trey Hendrickson's just going to go back to Cincinnati after he kicks the tires, similar to what Matt Stafford did. But we'll see. Other than that, we could play a game tomorrow. And I think if we didn't do anything, which obviously we got the whole draft coming up and a little bit more free agency, so we're not done. But if we did nothing other than what we've done already, I think we will be a competitive team next year. And in the division, Detroit, obviously everybody looks up. But Detroit had a lot of brain drain. Well, how much of a difference that'll make, I do not know, but it's definitely a thing. Minnesota lost some talent. Yeah, they brought some in, but they definitely lost some talent. So we'll
Appreciate you bringing that up because nobody wants to talk about that. Oh, they added so many pieces. How many did they lose? Right? Are they just replacing players? And did they get better players or worse players? You can't just say, oh, they added 5 people. Okay. Well, they got better. Did they? Did they add good players? Was there a net surplus of players? Was there a net benefit, a quality of these players? I mean, it's such simplistic nonsense, and it's usually just Packers haters, whether that be Bears, Vikings, Lions fans, or Packers fans who just want to piss and moan. Everybody else got better except us. Oh, my Lord. Lions just lost another DB, but they added one, so they're so much better now. Remember last year when their defense sucked, except for that one player, and then when people got hurt, they didn't have any depth, and now they lost 2 players, but they added one, so now they're great. What? My Lord.
See how that goes. And okay, Chicago, I'll throw you a bone. Even though I don't think it's nearly as good as the Chicago fans will make it out to be, it does appear that there was some adults in the room, and some of the offensive line moves and things like that seem like, reasonably credible moves. So, well done, Chicago Bears. Hey, game on. Let's see how it goes. Go Pack, go. Thanks, Ryan. Bye.
I think reasonable is reasonable. I have complaints with all of them. I like the center, like I said. I would have been okay with him coming here, but he's not a very good pass blocker, so that's a problem. They got one very good offensive lineman, but he's 32, and then they got one not super great offensive lineman, which is pretty standard for them. They get one guy that's not very good. They argue that he's good. I say, no, he's not, and then in a year or two, they're getting rid of him, saying he's a bum, and they don't like him. This is just the cycle of life with me and Bears fans. He's apparently a Pro Bowl offensive lineman that Detroit got rid of after his rookie deal. He went somewhere else, and they immediately got rid of him, and then the Bears signed him for not very much money. But he's definitely an elite Pro Bowl offensive guard. That's for sure what he is. It's the dumbest crap ever. But look, I mean, as far as what... If we're judging the Bears based on campaign promises kept, and it's not even... I don't even think it was a campaign promise. It was sort of a rumor, I think, that came out. But whatever. I had said it on here that the Bears are looking to add on the interior of their offensive line and with the intent on running the ball or something to that effect. I mean, they got 3 interior offensive linemen. And arguably, I don't know that you could have done a better job because there's not that many, like I said, not that many people out there. So for that sake, you could say that. I don't know that I agree with the plan that we're going to give away a bunch of draft picks for lesser valuable pieces that don't actually help us as far as pass blocking as much and are not really long-term solutions, at least. One of them isn't. One of them could be, but probably won't be because he's not very good. I don't remember how old Dahlman is. But again, just the overall plan of we're going to run the ball. I mean, I guess I get it. They're trying to recreate what they had in Detroit with this road grading line. The problem is those road graders could also pass block. And they had Jared Goff, who was better in a pocket, better at getting the ball out quickly, and better at getting the ball out accurate. But whatever, it doesn't matter, right? They've got a plan. They're going to try to, with lesser tools, recreate what they had in Detroit. Run the ball very well, take some pressure off the quarterback. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the Bears are just like any other team. They're just like the Packers. With the Packers, if Jordan Love can get back to tip-top shape, the Packers are unstoppable. If Caleb Williams can become, if he can take a Bryce Young level leap, where Bryce Young I thought was maybe the worst quarterback selection of all time, last year he was actually quite good. If Caleb can do that and be a good quarterback, then they're going to be a good team. And it doesn't freaking matter what they did in free agency. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got Zach in Great White Buffalo. You know that song? It's not a race thing. It's a... actually, it was kind of a race thing, the song was, but Ted Nugent, Great White Buffalo. White man stole all the Indians' land and all that stuff. It's good. I like that song. I'm not a huge Ted Nugent fan, but Great White Buffalo is a sweet song, dude. Just right out of the gate, just kind of gets you. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey man, Zach in Buffalo here.
What's up?
I'm just listening to you break down that pundit or whoever it is with the broken heart and the shot up Achilles. Man, I got to tell you, some of these Packers fans are just ridiculous, man. Like, you guys all hate Goody so much. Go find another GM. Go find another team to cheer for, because this dude makes good moves. I don't feel like he ever leads the Packers astray. And we're a perennial playoff Super Bowl contender year after year after year.
You know, I just wish there was one, and I'm sure they exist, and I probably just don't interact with them because they're too measured for me to just come across the nonsense and be, I guess, triggered by it, if you will. But, I mean, there have to be people out there that are not necessarily fans of Gutekunst that at least acknowledge certain things. That it is to his credit that the Packers are as good as they are. Even if he's, you know, I at least acknowledge the positives. What he's done in free agency, the hits, even when it's not big swings. Like Rasul Douglas was a minor swing that had a major impact. Devondre Campbell, look at the 2019 free agent class. You know, and again, a lot of those little signings because we had no money. But even with no money, he goes out and finds major impact people. And then last year, he signs two of the biggest free agents that are out there, right? And then at least acknowledge the positives in the draft if you want to talk about the negative. There's certainly negatives, but at least be honest about certain stuff. There's no honesty, and it's so over the top. He did nothing. Well, that's just obviously not true. He never does anything in free agency. He's the reason we never win a Super Bowl. All this crazy stuff that is just so... I mean, it's not in the realm of being serious. I think there are plenty of criticisms. And to be completely honest, I am, and it's weird because I my Twitter handle is Gootlicker, right? So it's kind of become my identity to defend the guy. But you have to be malleable with these things. Things change. And I've even said there's going to come a time where Gutekunst needs to go. And I don't know when that's at. We are approaching a period where when you evaluate things through the draft, that if he doesn't have a good draft this year, and if some of the guys from last year don't pan out, I do think he's going to be on the other side of this probably isn't good enough. So I'm more than willing to have a conversation about certain things, but we got to look at the positive and the negative, and all of the critiques, or at least most of the critiques from the violently anti-Gutekunst people are just so ridiculous to me that I feel like I take on that mantra of being a hardcore Gutekunst defender just because some of the arguments are so stupid. I would actually love to have a discussion with a rational person that thinks that we could probably do better. And that's the other thing. You need to acknowledge to me the reality that there are... He's on the... Let's just put it this way. There are significant risks that we end up with a terrible GM. That's another caveat that you need to acknowledge to me. Right? So we're saying that he's not in the top half of GMs, and that the risk of making the mistake of getting like a bottom 10, bottom 5 GM is worth the risk because I want to try to get a guy that is in the top 10, top 5 range And I just don't think that we have that with Gutekunst. And despite his successes with free agency, I don't think the hit rate in the draft is good enough. And I think draft and develop is too important. If you want to start building out this case, I'm listening, and I think that that's actually a decent case to make. I still want to see how the 2024 class turns out because we had our first-round pick who was injured, which is the other thing. Oh, that was a bust. Guys, you have to stop it. You can't start taking victory laps on a Gutekunst first-round miss just because you hate the guy so much on a pick that didn't get to play yet. He might bust out. In fact, he probably will. And by bust out, I just mean he won't meet the potential of what you need a guy like that in the first round to be. He probably will, but you have to wait for it to happen. We have a running back that didn't get to play. We had a linebacker that was incredibly good, a mid-round safety that seems to be quite talented. You've got another safety that might be talented, but we didn't get to see him. We got another linebacker that showed some promise, but we didn't get to see him because there's just so many people. There's also successes from late-round guys like Valentine and Walker that really caused me to be hesitant to just be super anti-Goot. And the fact that I want some of the high-tier guys is true, but again, I still need to see Morgan. I need to see, I keep calling him the running back because I cannot remember his name. He never plays. And so I never used to remember Morgan's name, so at least I got Jordan Morgan down now. The running back, I can't do it. Marshawn Lloyd, there we go. I didn't even look it up. I got it. And then let's see how this class goes. But if last year's class doesn't materialize, right? And let's say Edgerrin Cooper is really the only big takeaway, and I'm worried about a regression from Evan Williams, because again, I do think he really just had a really hot streak that kind of went away after a while. But if it turns out that it was largely a bad class, and then this year doesn't pan out, I'm ready to have a conversation. I'm not saying I'm going to come full swinging. Gutekunst is the worst, and he's always been bad. It's not about always been bad. It's about things change over time. And what I'm saying is I've been satisfied with him, and that if we go a period of time out even further, and then you kind of average it out, if you add, let's say, 2 bad draft classes to the totality of what he's done, or plus look at the more recent recency of it all, because you got to predict what's going to happen in the future, and what's happened most recently is more predictive than what happened a long time ago, then I'd be willing to have the conversation. But it's got to be measured, man. You guys are so out of control. It's so obvious that you just hate the guy. Many of you've hated him since day one because of the whole Aaron Rodgers situation and because he didn't get a wide receiver when you thought he wanted to, which again is so... I just had somebody today talk about wide receivers again. It was like, oh, Gutekunst never does anything. What about 2019? Well, he should have got a wide receiver. Okay, so he got all this stuff. He spent all this money on premier players. We ended up with with literally the number 1 rated safety in football one year, the number 1 pass rusher in football one year, but that's not good enough for you because we didn't also get a wide... Which one? Which wide receiver would have made that? It doesn't matter. We could have got a wide receiver, so all the great things don't matter anymore. This is how dishonest you are. And again, what did I point out? How about the fact that the very next year we had the number 1 offense in football, and this whole wide receiver thing is stupid? But it doesn't matter because you get one stupid thing in your head and you can't let it go. There's just this seething anger and this complete inability to let go of the tiniest little things. It's got to be some like neurological or emotional disorder where some people are so incapable of like forgiveness that if one slight happens, if one thing happens that pisses you off, you will hate that person forever. It's insane. And again, just give me some better arguments, because I'm telling you, I'm ready to be persuaded. But nobody is willing to have an honest and serious conversation about this.
Go be a Browns fan. Go be a Jets fan.
Right.
And see how you like it. I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it. We made 2 decent splashes in free agency this year. Oh, the money. Get over it.
Yeah.
It's not your money.
Well, that's the other thing. We overpaid, but also we have all this money that still needs to be spent. But also, I don't even know what the contract is. I had one guy that was going at back and forth with on social. He was talking about Asante Samuel. I'm like, Asante Samuel's not even good. He's like, well, he's at least as good as Hobbs. He's like, you just said you don't like Hobbs. You said it was a bad signing. Well, we overpaid him. We didn't even pay him that much. And if we paid him that little and it was too much money and he's as good as Asante Samuel, that means you want to pay Asante Samuel significantly less, which means he must be terrible. So why do you want him? What are you even talking about? But again, these are not serious people having serious conversations. It's just anger. It's just flailing. It's just, ugh.
It's the team's money, and the man who we put in charge to run the money is the one making the decisions. You have no idea how Aaron Banks is going to be. You have no idea how Nate Hobbs is going to be. Let the season play out. Then cry after. I know you're going to anyways.
Yeah.
We have a real chance to build something great through the draft, and I feel very confident in the free agency moves that we've made this year so far. And, hey, free agency's still young. Not many people left on the market, but still. I'm just so sick of hearing people cry all the time. Go cheer for another team if you don't like it, because it's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sit here and ramble. Enough people ramble. I'm just saying. It's ridiculous at this point. Oh, my broken heart, my shot Achilles. Get over it. Ridiculous. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Go Pack, go.
Yeah, I appreciate the backup. You know, and I mean, this is how simplistic this stuff is. Just to give you your point of go root for another team, because it's here's what you can do. How many players are there that are really? Let's say 5. Okay, let's say 5. How hard is it going to be for me to go out and find all the teams that didn't get any of those 5? Because I don't know if you guys are math majors, but it's not possible for 32 teams to each get at least one of 5 people. It's not possible. In fact, again, kind of a math whiz over here, most teams ended up with 0 of them. So it's actually very rare. And again, the expectation from spoiled Packer fans is either we get all the best things above and beyond everybody else. In other words, we are at the front of the line. If there's one person, we better get him. Otherwise, Gutekunst should be fired. And if you don't believe me, watch this Trey Hendrickson thing play out. If he goes literally anywhere else, they're going to lose their mind. Why? Because the expectation is if anybody gets it, it better be us. Otherwise, you're a failure, which is why I want to do this GM experiment. Because guess what? It's going to be 32 failures, which I shouldn't say that out loud. And I promise you, I'm not going to make fun of you. It's just to make a point. We can certainly have a winner and all that stuff. It is meant to be fun. I'm not trying to scare you guys away. This isn't just to bludgeon, but it is to make a larger point. There might be a team or two that does something satisfying, but at the end of the day, what this is going to illustrate is what free agency is. Some people will overpay, and some people will get nothing. And that's going to be the result. And again, it's just going to be an exaggerated version of that, because I'm sure some people are going to massively overpay, but it doesn't matter, because it just magnifies a larger point of what free agency really is. And by the way, for the violently anti-Good people, not participating just proves my point just as much as actually doing the experiment. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Hey, Ryan. Zach in Buffalo again. Listen, man, I said I wasn't going to rant, but I think I am.
Okay.
And I finished up your pod, and I went and listened to Clayton and the boys, and there's still people crying. Man, I think people are delusional. I really do. I think people are just living in the glory days, and they're pissed off, and they got a chip on their shoulder. The Gutekunst came in and broke down the organization and traded away all of our icons. And if you don't think that bothers 100% of Packers fans,
yeah,
I'm saying this to the crying fans out there.
I get it.
You're insane. That generation of players is what turned me into a Packers fan. They're the ones that brought me to the game of football. I'm a younger guy. I'm 27. So I grew up in the glory years of the Aaron Rodgers era. And watching all of those players go, it breaks your heart.
Yes.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't wish that prime Jordy Nelson, prime Devontae, prime Cobb, Jennings,
dude,
we're on the team right now. Seriously. But you guys have got to get over it. I mean, for real. You guys are pissed off that we have a GM that has a tough back and stands up to players and refuses to throw 10 years of the Packers' future away, 10 years of your life as a fan away. I mean, you're crying over it. You hate this guy. You want somebody new. Who do you want? What do you want?
Yeah.
You want Mike McCarthy back? Mr. Can't Manage Time? You can't manage football games? You want to see a couple 90-yard moon balls down the field every game in the hopes that he can score 70 points a game like he did when Aaron was here? Get over it. Just stop. It's a different world. It's a different era. It's a different genre of Packers football. And the team is going to be built the way that it needs to be built, not the way that you wish it could be built on Madden. Delusional. Casual is not even the word. It's delusional.
I wonder just throw random stuff out. You mentioned that some people are kind of stuck in the past, and I think to a large part that's true. Obviously, that doesn't speak to everybody, but there's probably a subset of people that are mad about the situation and how it unfolded. And you know, we used to be this. That's the other part with people who are a little bit more maybe historically minded, is they romanticize the past a little bit. It was a lot of good things happened. Not everything was perfect though. But man, everything was it was the glory days and everything was wonderful and all this, and you ruined it all. But I do kind of wonder for that group if it's because for myself, like I'm bad at the history stuff. I had a great time back then, but I can't remember anything. I'm terrible with like stats and all that stuff. Like I don't remember. I wish I did. I don't. And like even with like if you were to like sit me down and be like, hey, what if we went back and like hung out and watched the Super Bowl again? It's like, we could. But you know, it was more enjoyable in the moment. I don't know if I want to go watch it again necessarily, or you know, old games, or I just don't have super interest in. I tend to be more future focused. I think that's why I like the draft and I like free agency and I like the idea of what can be. I like the process of building. And some people seem to just be annoyed, and I think people like me annoy them in general because I'm optimistic. And I do try to build away from all the stuff that they want to constantly shine the. Yeah, but look what was over here. Look what we lost. Bro, that's life. Football is just the cycle of life. If you're just going to keep getting stuck in the past every 5 years, this isn't for you. Football is constant evolution. It's constantly moving forward. Like I said, when you draft somebody, you start trying to replace them. That's what happens. Not literally that fast, but that's what happens in the NFL. It moves fast. Guys that were, and this, you know, again, the problem with a lot of free agency. Oh, they signed Grady Jarrett, or they signed Javon Kinlaw, or they signed. Bro, these guys were good 5 years ago. Like Grady Jarrett was one of the most elite defensive linemen in football. That was a while ago. This isn't even like an anti-Bears thing. It's just this is everybody. He just comes to the forefront of my mind. This happens all the time. But it's because they're historically these great names. Oh, man, we got to idolize. Listen, things move fast. Same with the salary cap. Oh, that's so much money. No, it was so much money 3, 4, 5 years ago. Today, that's not very much money. Like, you got to be on your toes. You got to keep moving forward. And there needs to be a level of excitement about the future. Like, I was terrified of losing Aaron Rodgers, but at some point you've got to try to make this emotional shift from terrified of losing Rodgers and appreciating the fact that we still have him for a year or two or whatever to, man, I'm excited about what can be for Jordan, and look at the specific tool sets that he has and the specific, you know, arm talent and escapability and these different attributes that he has. From Mike McCarthy to Matt LaFleur, look at the cool, different this, that, or the other. From Ted Thompson to Brian Gutekunst, you know, it's you're walking away from a legend, but let's get excited about what this person can bring. And yeah, there comes a point where you honestly evaluate things and say, I just think it's time to accept that it's never going to be good enough. You know, we've put in 4 years of Eric Stokes. He hasn't come around. It was exciting for a little bit to get excited about it. Now it's time to move on. The people who get stuck in the past never even start getting. They're already done with Jordan Morgan. They were done with Gutekunst before he ever took over. They were done with Matt LaFleur the second he took the job. They never even start the process of getting excited. They just start the process of immediately tearing down. Because if you start building up and if the Packers start being successful, then you're not noticing the past anymore. You're forgetting about Aaron Rodgers, and you're forgetting about how we could have won a Super Bowl with Rodgers if we just got a wide receiver. That we wasted the glory years. Bro, it's time to move on. And again, if the Packers succeed, if they actually do go out and do the things, if Gutekunst actually does do a good job and people start saying he is a good GM, then it overshadows the fact that we wasted the glory years. We wasted the glory years. We wasted the glory years. Shut up. We have to keep moving. We have to keep moving. You're dead weight. And to your point, Zach, yeah, dude, if you just want to live in misery, go somewhere else. There are teams who live in misery. I mean, literally, the Bears would be a great team for you because this is a fan base whose entire identity, although actually you wouldn't be very good Bears fans because Bears fans actually get crazy optimistic about the future. But they also, you know, live in, well, it's not even true that they live in the 80s. They live in the present. They just remember the 80s like around November. Who would be a good team? Not Vikings fans necessarily because they're kind of like Packer fans. They're just kind of like constantly miserable about stuff. But I don't think they really remember the past. It's not. I don't remember a lot of Vikings fans talking about the purple people eaters or whatever. I don't know. They're just generally unhappy. Lions don't have a past, really. They're just their entire history is now. Probably Patriots fans. I don't know, but if I had to guess, they've got that whole long history and now they suck. But at least you'd have something to be upset about because their GM actually sucks and their team actually sucks and their coaches actually suck and everything actually sucks. And they did actually have a really great dynasty at one point. So that would be a pretty good team to go be a part of. Because then you could do all the things you're doing now and actually have a point. It would be more fun to look to the future and say, what could Drake May do? And, getting some new coaches in and what about this and da-da-da. But I just think it would fit your personality a little better. You know what I mean? But no, I think that's probably a good point, Zach, as far as they're stuck constantly in the past. And I don't know if that's just sort of a personality trait. People that are more historically focused as opposed to like future focused. That's why I like AI and I like SpaceX and I like all this quantum computing and all that stuff, which I was looking at yesterday, and it's like, what can quantum computing do? And it's like, well, it's going to be great for like hacking. Like, great. So it's a national security threat. It's like, yeah, it's pretty much what it is. But anyways, like I love that stuff because it's like, what could the future be? That's where I'm at. And it's like, remember the Packers in '97? It's like, that was fun. Anyways, bro, what about like, a VR helmet that you just like wear and like, I could see everything and just worlds are get created in an instant because quantum computing mixed with AI and everything. You know what I mean? Like, just different strokes for different folks, I guess. Some people get excited about the future. Some people are still yelling about T. Higgins and TJ Watt.
It's just, I don't mean to be rude. I am sorry because I love Packers Nation. I really do. And it's crazy. I swear to God, we're touted as one of the best fan bases in all of the NFL. And I get being passionate and caring about the team, but like just spouting off of the mouth, complaining about stuff is crazy. If he didn't spend money, he's a loser. He won't do anything. He doesn't care. If he does spend money, it's on the wrong guys. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Oh my God, I don't get it. It's crazy. Everybody needs to start being a little more positive and thankful.
Yes.
For real. We're perennial.
And I do think that is one of the things that annoys me is there's just a complete lack of gratitude. I mean, you sound like a spoiled child. I mean, in all seriousness, you are a spoiled brat. You have, it's like you live in America, you live in a wealthy country, you have all these good things, but you take all that for granted. So that to you is the baseline, right? That's just like oxygen. Well, that's expected. Of course I have a home. Of course I have clothes. Of course I live in a, upper middle class neighborhood. But my parents won't buy me a car. And so now how am I supposed to get to work? And if I can't get a job, then I can't, put things on my resume and I can't edit it. And my parents won't let me do this. And now I can't have a job, and that means I can't have a cell phone. And if I can't have a cell phone, then I can't interact with people and be social. And it's all these first world problems, and there's just a complete lack of, like, can you say thank you to me as your parent? Can you appreciate at least what I've done for you? If you have some disagreements with me, we can talk about it. But to just treat me like a piece of crap because of these negative things, and they might be bad. Maybe you have a point about X, Y, and Z. But wow, you are out of line with how you're treating me, considering all the things I've done for you that you take for granted. That is a lot of Packer fans, and I think that to me really annoys me. It would go a long, long way with me if it was more of the stance of I'm very appreciative of what we have. I understand that we have it better than almost every fan base across the entire NFL, and I'm grateful for that. I just don't think we're going to get over the hump with the current situation, and here's why. Here's my standard of what a good GM should be able to do, based on not just some arbitrary bull crap. Well, we should be able to hit on first round picks and da-da-da. Show me. It's not that hard, guys. It's really not going to be that hard. It's not going to take that much of your time. Get on your phone, get on a computer, pull up some information. Find a reasonable hit rate. Find like the top 5 or 6 teams that you would be happy cheering for. Find out what their hit rate is. Compare it to Brian Gutekunst. And if there's a deficiency there, say, look, here's what these guys are doing and here's what we're doing. And if he can't get us up to this level, then I'm not satisfied. But that's not what we get. It's just ingratitude. It's just spoiled brat behavior. And it's just obnoxious.
Playoff contenders. We are lucky to have this team. people cry and cry and cry. Half the time, I think the team doesn't deserve to win because half the people don't deserve to see them win.
Right.
It's crazy. Again, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude or come off as a jackass. It's the truth. Go, Pat, go. Stay positive. Have a good season.
I agree. And I hope that I've demonstrated an ability to be reasonable and to change my mind and to admit when I change my mind and all those things. I know people on social media think I'm biased, and that's fine because they don't listen to the podcast every day, especially Bears fans or whatever. That's fine. Of course, they think I'm completely biased. I'm sure even people listening think I'm biased about the Bears, but I like to think that I try to set a standard and stick with it. And it's hard to come off of that. It would be difficult for me to pivot on Gutekunst just because it's going to feel like an embarrassment, even though it shouldn't. That's the important point. Because it's not about being wrong in the past. I stand by what I said in the past, but things change over time. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to accept things. I'm willing to change my mind. I'm willing to do these things. I just want to hear reasonable explanations. And I'm really tired of the spoiled brat behavior. Take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan. This is Ethan from Maryville, Tennessee, man.
Yo.
It's nice to be back on here. It's been a while since I've called.
Yeah, dude.
I usually take a break when the off season starts, and just because, I want to take a break after the playoffs. I was kind of surprised about, the conversation about the Packers and not having a number one wide receiver has kind of come up again. I understand that, we need a field stretcher because Watson went down. And I know that's how Matt LaFleur runs his offense. But I was kind of confused about why everyone was so upset about not getting DK or not getting Devontae. Because, I just think about our wide receivers in our room. They're all still really young. You see Wicks is going into his third year and Reed's going into his third year. And the signing of Aaron Banks makes me feel like, Matt just wants to focus on running the ball, and build our offense around that, and that will open up the pass game. But I just guess I'm kind of confused about that. It's just, I would love to get a wide receiver in the draft, but, man, let our guys develop. We're still one of the youngest wide receiver rooms in the NFL, and put Wicks on the jugs machine, and I think we'll be fine. Anyway, man, I was just going to keep it short and keep it to that, but appreciate the show. I'll see you later.
Yeah, it is funny how that immediately came back around. I thought we were going to be able to get away from that. I do think it's a little bit more reasonable these days than it used to be, just insofar as when we had Devontae, it's I understand, like, we could use a better number two and all that, but the constant whining about not having wide receivers, and we had, like, the number one wide receiver in football, was like, it's a little bit more of a tough sell. Now it's like, okay, Watson's probably our number one, even though he's probably not really actually a number one, but and now he's down, and not only do we lose our top receiver, but we lose our field stretcher, and then Dobbs is kind of a weird thing where he's very up and down. Also, like, is his head in it, heart in it? I don't know what's going on there. And Reed is pretty good, but he's like a slot guy that can't win in man coverage, and Wicks has serious drop issues, and it's such a weird thing. I think it's at least a fair question to it's a fair enough question to say, I wonder what the plan is. Like we talked about, this morning, last night, whatever. And I think it is fair to question, could it be let's lean even harder on the run, because Josh Jacobs did a good job. He didn't have a lot of space to run around. And if we can kind of stabilize that left guard spot and improve the center spot and hopefully improve the right guard spot, then maybe we do focus on running the ball a little bit, which I think, again, we talk about mimicking the Eagles. I think we have a running back that can maybe not get us the exact same level of success, but if you bolster that offensive line, we could certainly get a lot of success with Josh Jacobs. We got a guy we can lean on and really hammer the ball with, and really take some pressure off of Jordan and the receivers, maybe more importantly. We don't maybe need to have as premier receivers, maybe put a little bit more on Tucker Kraft as a top option. I think that they really want to go in that direction. Again, I think that's all fair, and that might be the direction we're going. So I think the important thing, and it kind of goes into the last call, is it's fair to say, here's my plan and why I would have done X, Y, and Z, right? I liked DK and would have gone after him. What I think kind of annoys me is the idea that we have to have a number 1/speed threat, so therefore we have to go after DK. And there was a rumor that they didn't go after DK, therefore Brian Gutekunst doesn't care. I mean, there's so many weird assumptions in there. We don't have to get a number, like you said. We probably need to get a number 1, or in other words, we have to have some kind of a philosophy, and wide receiver is probably a part of that. But that's an assumption. And it's an assumption to say that it has to be DK Metcalf and that there can't be any reasons not to go after him. It's an assumption, kind of, depending on the validity of the report, that we didn't even try to go after DK Metcalf. It's entirely possible that we saw the price and just kind of walked away from it. It's also, in a similar vein, it's an assumption that had the price been different, they wouldn't have been more interested. And it's also, finally, an assumption that Gutekunst is has this weird vendetta and is trying to sabotage the team or something stupid. You know what I mean? Like, guys, what are we doing here? So I appreciate the thoughtfulness of the call to say, let's think outside the box here, right? Kind of similar to, Clayton talking about, could we move our slot receiver out to the boundary? It's interesting, right? Because he's got the speed to be a Z receiver, and that would kind of free up some options to bring in a slot receiver and, kind of solve that conundrum. Could we possibly focus more on, like the Bears, bolstering the offensive line and focus on running the ball / get the tight end more involved? That can ease up the wide receiver so we don't need to do as much. So that way maybe we can bring in a receiver or draft a receiver, but he doesn't need to be an elite receiver. We just need more bodies in there, like another Dobbs as opposed to somebody significantly better than Dobbs. These are the conversations I'd rather have than we needed to go after DK. We didn't go after DK. Therefore, boom, middle finger, fire the guy. Like, okay, well, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that.
Hey, Ryan, Denver from California.
Yo.
I was looking at ESPN stats for pass blocking, and I was looking at that in comparison with PFF, and the way, because obviously they have their own metrics, right, or they're going to grade the way they're going to grade, however they're doing it, but when you look at metrics that more in line match up with how the Packers view the offensive line, ESPN seems to be a better fit to try to judge what the Packers think about an offensive line than PFF. And just for example, looking at 2023 first, you got Rasheed Walker as the second best pass blocker at win rate, and then you got Zach Tom. I think he's around like 15th or something, or 17th. But you go to interior, and all three of our interior guys on the ESPN pass block win rates are all in the top 20 or something. I gotta look. I just had it up, but I'm not gonna give you the exacts on it. Let me see. Or I'll give you the exacts. I got it right here. They're all in line, 14, 16, 17, and funny enough, Lucas Patrick is right next to them, right? So you got four guys that are Packers or were a Packer, all right there, and you got Rasheed Walker for 2023 as the second in pass block win rate. Funny enough, Billy Turner did really well in ESPN.
Yes, he did.
ESPN.
They loved him.
Pass block win rate. So I think when you look at this and what it tells you, how they grade and view is more in line with this. I haven't been able to find the way to get to the full list.
By the way, this is exactly why I disregard anybody that shows me ESPN statistics. They had Billy Turner as one of the best tackles in football. So you might be right that that's how the Packers do it, but I just, no chance am I interested in any of that.
But just generally looking at Aaron Banks, his pass block win rate and his run block win rate is, when you look at the percentages based on what they're able to show, it's pretty close to these guys that are towards the top. I'm not going to say he's bad. I'm not going to say he's good. Just like how everybody else sees it, he is a average to maybe slightly above average, but more closer to average interior offensive lineman. But I see how they have a type, and it really actually kind of illuminates the idea of Rasheed Walker having a bad year last year. And you look at the 2024 numbers, I think the line didn't do as good as they did in 2023. And when you go and going forward, you know that Rasheed Walker has the ability, based on the ESPN numbers, to be number 2 in the NFL. I don't think they're moving off him. I think he's here to stay. So.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a growing sentiment that the Packers want to move on from Rasheed. I haven't really noticed anything. I do know that there's some misalignment sometimes between what I value and what the Packers value. Sometimes they seem to continually want to push somebody off the team that seems to be a good player, and I don't really understand why they're doing that. Other times they really want to hang on to people like Billy Turner that I just don't understand why. I haven't noticed anything as far as trying to push Rasheed off the team at all, but that doesn't mean that it's not. I'm just saying I think they should keep him. I think the Packers probably want to keep him. I'm guessing the sentiment probably comes from not Packer fans necessarily thinking that the Packers want to do it as much as hoping that they do it, because they probably want somebody that's, maybe just better than what they think he is, whether it's, run blocking or just whatever. I don't know. But maybe it's just more projection than thinking the Packers are trying to do it, because I haven't seen anything. Maybe you have. All right, last one. Daniel got cut off at 3 minutes, and he's going to get cut off again, but we'll see what he's got.
Just to round out my point, like Rasheed Walker, you look at what average is, and based on what they report, 79% pass block win rate is average for tackles, right? I've seen reports where people are talking about moving off of Rasheed Walker because he's not that good or something, right? But when you actually watch him, like, his big issue that I think what really hits him with PFF, especially maybe 2 years ago, was penalties and false starts. He was really prone to doing that. So, this past year, off the top of my head, I can't remember if he was the culprit for a lot of those, but I know a lot for 2023 he was really into that. But you look at him for 2023, he had the number 2 overall pass block win rate. He's not shown on 2024 because he's not in the top 20. Zach Tom is, but just having like the ability to get to that top where you're in the 90th percentile. Let's see, he's 96 pass block win rate. Does it show? I wonder if it shows if I click on his name, because that's the whole thing about this list. I'm trying to find if I can get the full breakdown, but I think they're both getting contracts, and I don't know if Rasheed's going to get like the massive Zach Tom contract, because it's pretty well established that everybody thinks he's really good, but I don't understand why people wouldn't want to give Rasheed that contract, because all of his metrics, even on PFF, show that he is a solid pass blocker. And I know the whole thing, you don't want to overpay for good, you want to overpay for great and all that stuff, but it's just the PFF metrics, they're not perfect, and we all can agree upon that. It's just a weird specific thing with some of the blocking stuff and how they seem to ding people for certain mistakes more than other stuff. So I don't know, just trying to be the glass half full guy. I like our line. I think we have bookend tackles. I think now we have a battle for last man standing on the interior, where Elton's probably going to be the guy for center, right? And you'll have Morgan, and you'll have Ryan as the competition for the backup center, and then the winner will get the right guard, hopefully, unless Ryan and Morgan step up.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a weird spot for a lot of these positions because I feel like we're kind of torn between we have a good offensive line and we need upgrades. And you can say that about left tackle, left guard, right guard. We'll see how Elton does at center. It's and I don't think these guys are necessarily moving, but it's a question of, is Rashid a good tackle or is he not good enough? And it's tough because he's, as best as I can tell, he is like a top 10, potentially top 5 pass blocker when at his best, top 10 for sure, but he's just a bad run blocker, which is not great. But also, you swap him out, you're going to get worse at pass blocking, which is the most important thing, and that sucks. Left guard, we're locked in, so there's no point even debating it, but probably could find somebody better. Right guard, we'll see. Hopefully, somebody can step up between the two guys, year 3 of Sean Ryan, if he takes a third step, or Jordan Morgan playing like a first-round pick would be great. And, best case scenario, they actually hit a home run with this free agent, and Morgan is actually a really solid guard, and Elton is everything that they dreamed that he would be at center, and we just got this dominant offensive line. It's not impossible. But anyways, I'll leave it at that. As of right now, I just threw it up on social media. We've got 12 pending people for the little GM experiment, so there's probably going to be plenty of openings. If you're interested, just reach out, and we'll try to get this thing going. I think it'd be kind of fun. See how things go. But we'll leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.